Thanks. So, the 9th district is where we are right now. So this is my home district, and it's a big district. It goes all the way on this lakefront area to the suburbs just north of here, Evanston, and that's where I grew up. And then that goes all the way to the airport. So lakefront to the airport, north side of Chicago, and suburbs. And, well, I'm running for Congress, and one thing that Congress is supposed to do is coin the money. It's one of the enumerated powers set forth in the Constitution. It's to coin the money. And another thing is to set the value thereof. So what we have is true government, and remember what one of our speakers was saying, I think Thomas Jefferson in his Declaration of Independence said, governments are established to secure the rights of people. And so money, currency, is supposed to be set, the value is supposed to be set by the people through their elected representatives in the government, in the Congress. And unfortunately today, that's not what's going on. Today we have what they call the Federal Reserve System. And most people think because of its name that it is indeed part of the federal government. But as I think Dennis Kucinich once said, the Federal Reserve System is no more federal than Federal Express. Now, this body was created in 1913. It was chartered, and it took the responsibilities of the money supply, of setting forth how money would be distributed in the country. And again, this is a really important thing because traditionally, at least before that, the government took that role. And they basically outsourced it to a private institution. Now, the creators of the Federal Reserve System were smart, and they named it Federal Reserve, so you would think it would be part of the federal government and that it would hold reserves. But the name itself is deceptive. Only in ceremony is it linked to the government. The president appoints members of the Board of Governors, and the Senate confirms them, just like a cabinet post or some other key administration post. So only just through that mechanism is the Federal Reserve System connected to the government. But aside from that, everything else is private. There's very little congressional oversight, and really even the president doesn't control it. And so what you have is a private institution that has, I believe it's 12 branch banks throughout the United States. And those each have a board, each have a president, and they're made up of private banks. So JP Morgan is one, Bank of America would be another, all the major banks. So it's basically the mother bank, the bank of banks. And again, it is private. So when we are supposed to set the value of our currency, it's not really in the public interest. It's in the interest of these elitist bankers. And you hear about that all the time through the Green Party Forum, that we have to make sure our public interests are not going to be jeopardized by a very small segment of the population that control the vast majority of wealth in this country. And so what you have is a nation that's supposed to be sovereign, you know, the United States of America, but it's really not sovereign because we are under this bank structure. And that is very, very dangerous. And that is why the dollar hasn't held its value. And the value of the dollar, I believe, is 10% of what it used to be when the bank first came to power. The mission of the bank was to hold the value of the dollar, and it failed miserably. Also, our national debt quadrupled just in the 1980s. Every time the bank puts more money in, more money supply out, bonds are sold. And this is a problem because there's no way we can pay off these bonds. And so what we have is a perpetual state of indebtedness. And now, with our bonds being owned by foreign investors, a lot from China and other countries, now our own sovereignty, our own currency, the money that's supposed to be coined by the government, is now really in the hands of foreign investors and rich elite groups, and this is very dangerous. Now, what I also wanted to talk about is our whole monetary system. We used to have what they call a commodity-based monetary system. And that means that all the money you see in circulation, cash money, coins, paper, that all was pegged on a gold standard. And then it went to a silver standard. But it always had a precious metal standard fixed to it. Most countries throughout history had their currency on the system. It's a commodity-based system, so there's an actual tangible value of money. All the money in circulation, if you deposit it into a bank, the bank, in theory, would give you that amount of gold or silver, whatever the relationship was. However, in the 70s, in the early 70s, there just wasn't enough gold or silver to go around. And so the Nixon administration decided to go on a totally different system. And so we went from a commodity system to what they call a fiat system. And in a fiat system, there is really no tangible commodity that the dollar is based on. So the dollar is really intangible. And what they decided to do is it would be based on what economists would ascribe it through whatever complicated formulas. So economists with their actuaries could basically say what the value of the money is, what the currency exchanges are, and what the interest levels are going to be. And they do that at the Federal Reserve Board, and again, this is the bank of banks. And what we have now is private interests determining our whole financial and monetary policy. That, to me, is very scary, because as citizens of a country, we basically surrender ourselves to, again, the highest elitists, oligarchs, if you will, from the banking industry. And the banking industry calls the shots. Interest rates are dictated. And again, the Board of Governors is only comprised of a very few small members, none of which are any members of minority groups. There's no diversity. Their terms are longer than senators. I believe they're 14 years terms. These are long terms, second to maybe the life terms that Supreme Court justices have. Yet these people have no oversight whatsoever. In fact, recently the Senate just tried to pass a bill to audit the Federal Reserve Bank. And that's quite ironic, because in this country where we value transparency and understanding where all these financial institutions, what they're doing with their money, we didn't let the Federal Reserve be audited since its creation in 1913. We're auditing every single person as an individual through taxes, businesses, small businesses, yet the most important business of them all, the most influential, the most powerful body of them all is not audited. And again, that is scary. And so what I propose is to nationalize the Federal Reserve System so that it really is part of the government and not above the government, so that it is part of the people's bank and not the bank of the bankers. And we can do this easily. There are a lot of people on the left and on the right, both, that agree with this. The same people that would like corporate personhood, the same people that believe this kind of bank should continue because we need it to be insulated from politics, are basically in denial. They don't understand how dangerous it is to have something so public be operated by private interests. And that is why we need the people to run the people's bank. So thanks, and please vote for me in November, 1 out of 3, and it's better than the lottery. So I think we're going to win it.
We have such wonderful candidates, and they're all so well versed on the issues